Welcome to We Are the City of Five Nations podcast. And I believe communities filled with individuals foreign to one another coming together to create deeper, truer understandings of one another is going to drive this entire world to a more positive human experience. And with that, we at the City of Five Nations begin this podcast series, 30 Days of Community Building. And what a better way to begin than to have a guest from one of the most impactful churches in the world today. And that, of course, being Life Church. I was in our local campus about a month ago, and something truly amazing happened is that I was surprised at what I see. And that's something that rarely happens at Life Church because they're on point with just about everything that happens. It's a very impressive place. But the lead pastor came on the screen and introduced another lead pastor from Gateway Church, Robert Morris. And Robert Morris ended up delivering a very great message. And it all went pretty seamless. And that was the 8:30 service on Sunday morning, and I realized soon after that, as we welcome Pastor Ian Brown, soon after that, Pastor Brown, I realized, oh wow, there had to have been some last-minute planning going on in this worldwide church for it to be pulled off that seamless. Tell us what your experience was like 24 hours before that switch took place.
So it was a lot of fun pivoting in that moment. We had always planned to have Robert Morris come and preach 2 weeks to our people, and so we had actually spent some time recording a couple of weeks of video with him. But we had one more week of this message series we were in called Dangerous Prayers. But Pastor Craig had been overseas at a leadership conference helping lead in Germany. And when on his way back, he was actually made aware that he had one of the other pastors and leaders there had been had the coronavirus, and so he alerted the CDC right away. He and one of our other pastors that was with him, and even though they tested negative, they went into a volunteer quarantine for 2 weeks to just make sure that they weren't spreading that to anyone else. So he absolutely tested negative, never showed any signs of illness. But just as an abundance of caution and not wanting to spread that, we had to make a last-minute pivot. Luckily, God had already had that. We had this great message series from Pastor Morris, and it was incredible, and it was a great way to pivot and just transition into that.
Well, and as so often happens, the message was right on point, even with at that point, it hadn't really ballooned. The COVID-19 hadn't really ballooned to the point in which it has today. And he delivered a message that was put God first in everything. And then as it came out a week later, Pastor Craig came on the screen and he kind of announced, okay, this is what was transpiring. Right. So internally, let's talk about internally with our community, because you deal so often with the people right here around us and surrounding us, with your volunteers and with your staff right here. What was it like during that time behind the scenes for you guys?
Well, for the first couple of weeks, it was kind of just doing the same things that we knew to do. We were anticipating having church, and we were preparing for that. And then as, the pandemic was announced and we were getting ready to go into another week of service, it became evident that, our leadership in our state and in our country was trying to encourage some things that were going to help us to flatten the curve, I guess, is the thing that, I've heard over and over again. And so, just as a church, we wanted to make sure we're doing our part to not spread the virus. And so just being cautious and trying to do what we thought was best, we decided not to meet in physical locations, but to move online. And we already had this church online platform built. And so we just transitioned to all of our campuses meeting there. And then Pastor Craig, while he was in quarantine, was inspired with some really incredible words on how we are to respond as Christ followers in a moment like this. And it was an incredible message series called Not Afraid. It's been awesome.
And life.church posts all of those messages online at any time. Anybody can go to life.church and actually see the messages that Pastor Craig has delivered. And they are, Pastor Craig is truly one of those individuals that what I see over the last 15 or even 20 years now of seeing some of his services, he really walks in a gifting that is unique. I don't know that I've seen a person ever for a sustained period of times as he has walk in what he was created to do. It's just so evident. And Life Church always, at the end of a service, Pastor Ian, says, whoever finds God
finds life.
That's right. And so as you have grown in who you are, tell us a little bit about your life, Pastor Ian. Tell us about who you are and perhaps some things or something that people who might not have known about you before, about the life you have found.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Hera, which is, just down the road here. I went to the First United Methodist Church there, grew up there. That's where I was baptized and got to know who Jesus was. But, as life happens to a lot of us, I went off to college and made some mistakes and kind of over a period of time found myself kind of in this journey away from what God was calling me to do. And I ended up teaching and coaching and then eventually was hired to be a high school principal at a school district in Northeast Oklahoma. And during that time, just the amount of pressure that I felt. I don't know if you guys know this, but your school leadership, your superintendents, your principals, they feel an enormous amount of pressure to be perfect and to have all the answers. And I felt that really personally. And as I was going through that, because I didn't feel like I could be real with people, I separated myself more and more, began to put up a lot of walls, and found myself really far from who God called me to be. And it was kind of at the end of that. I spent 6 years there at the school district. They had been really good to me. As a great school district, great superintendent. She came and sat down with me, and I realized that God was calling me to do something different, but I didn't know what it was. And at that moment, I recommitted my life to Christ and began to try to figure out what did it mean to follow Jesus. And so in this little Church of God, I began to experience that and to grow in that. But it wasn't until I began to attend the Life Church campus in Stillwater that I actually joined a small group of people called the Life Group and began to actually explore my faith and talk about my faith. And at that moment, my wife and I, who'd been married for 8 years, we began to say, well, what does it look like for us to lead a Christ-centered household? And that's kind of what has led us to this point. It's been an incredible journey. I love the way God's used every twist and turn to help uniquely bring me to this community, which is so close to where I grew up. And there's so many people here I know and love. I love being here in Pottawatomie County. I wore my shirt just for you guys. I love being here. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to bring up my kids. And I wouldn't choose to be anywhere else right now.
Well, and really just down the road from Main Street and on Main Street right here, I remember the time it just seemed like I got grabbed and pulled into the direction, and there was nobody around me to grab me. And I came to realize later that it was the Spirit of God all over me and how he moves. And, one of the most impactful things that happened to me in life, though, I didn't know really what had happened. And I was a senior in high school, and, I went to 4 different high schools, had a great day, first day of my senior year. And I thought, wow, this is really how high school is supposed to be. And that night I put my head on my pillow and there was a knock at my door. And, just from somewhere, I thought, oh no, don't let it be. And I named my sister, Colleen. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, that night I found out that my sister had been murdered in a city over 1,000 miles away. And I heard the wail of my mom as she fell to the floor. And I didn't know how that really could come together, in the sense of I put my head on my pillow thinking, this might have been the best day of my life. 10, 15 minutes later, I hear my mom wailing. And it's the first experience that I really had with death. Right. And through that experience, we traveled, and it was the first time that I had ever seen really a dead body up close. And as I reached out and I touched my sister, I realized that's not my sister. She's not there. And that was one of those experiences in my life. As I was going through it, I knew I would never forget. It was when I realized that there was a difference between spirit and physical, all of us right here, right now. And she truly had flown the coop. She just was not there. But through trauma, so often, like times like now, we can find out new things about ourselves and have those photographic moments. Is there a time in your life, Pastor Ian, that maybe you could share with us in which trauma hit you, in which it made you different and you knew, oh, I'm going to be different from now on?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are really thinking about that right now. But the time that comes to me that's most vivid actually is right before I came to work at the Shawnee campus. I was working at the Stillwater campus, and I had taken my family to go do something we did every single year as OSU fans. We always went to the homecoming parade. And we were sitting there on the corner watching the parade happen. And about 10 foot in front of us, a car slammed into the crowd. And you guys have read about this. You've prayed over these people as well. And what I experienced in that moment was just otherworldly. We were sitting there, everything was fine, and then everything absolutely wasn't. The two people who actually passed in that parade actually happened right in front of us. And that was not only a traumatic experience for me, but for my whole family. And so we had all of these weird feelings of, like, what do we do and how do we respond? And so I was able to take my family and get them to safety. But then as a pastor, I was like, what is my calling right now? What am I supposed to be doing? And I'm trying to figure out, do I stay here with my family? Do I go back down and help? And in that moment, just feeling like guilt and shame and not knowing how to respond in such a moment. And so I did go back down and was able to pray with a few people and speak with a few people. But one of the things I realized in that moment that was really hard, and I was reminded of it this morning as I was listening to a podcast by Brene Brown, is that we can't compare our suffering to others, right? We can't negate how we feel just because somebody else has it worse. What we experienced is actually still something that's traumatic that's happening to us, and we need to be okay with expressing that to other people and expressing that to God and saying, hey, I'm not okay in this moment. And I think as a man, especially, but also just as somebody in our society, we're supposed to be pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. So often we won't share the things we're feeling. And we really, really do need to talk to others about how we're feeling in this moment. This is affecting all of us, this pandemic and the social distancing and I actually would prefer to say physical distancing, right? Because we can actually be socially connected through our phones, through our computers, but this physical distancing is taking a toll on us, and we are all feeling a bit weary right now. We need to be able to share that with others and be encouraged by them too.
I've never heard a personal witness to what actually transpired on that college or just off the college campus that day. Mm-hmm. And how touching that is. I mean, how vivid, 10 feet away, the car plummeting into the crowd, just tumultuous. Mm-hmm. And in no way are we trying to compare, what we go through right now as we all are learning something new, but it is definitely something new that we're all learning about ourselves in moments like this, because whether we like it or we not, this pandemic is all around us. Right. Being talked about no matter where you go or where you look, because we are seeing so less of each other than we have in the past. And as a church that has really, Pastor Ian, exploded like Life Church has, with, I heard 700 million downloads of the free Bible giveaway, the YouVersion app. Is that a right number? Somewhere up around there?
Man, I know it's in the hundreds of millions. I can't remember that right off now, but it's been incredible. And there's a lot of work that went into that. Those different versions of the Bibles are all owned by different places around the world, and for them the global church to come together and say, hey, we do want to get this in the hands of people. We're just so honored to be a catalyst for that with the YouVersion Bible app, and it is It's been super cool to watch that. It has now been downloaded on every single continent, including Antarctica, and in every single country in the world. It's been super cool to see that. And there's so many tools in there that not just Life Church uses. There are churches right here in our community that are using it as well to host their services, to share Bible plans and to read Bible plans together. It's a remarkable tool, and it is so cool to get to see what's happening through it.
Yeah, I remember it just a few years ago when that app launched. It seems like, and now it's probably been 15 or 17 years. It was one of the most dynamic apps released when the Apple Store opened, and is one of the leading downloads in all of the store. And the leadership group of Life Church really applauded for that, and as they continue to lead. But right here in our own community, so many different ways our campus and you and Pastor Trevor and all your group there at Life Church lead the way in trying to help to bring this community together and really help by helping local. I'd really like for you to share some of the things that you've got going on now that our local people, and even around the world maybe, because there's so many different Life Churches, ways in which you could plug into Life Church, but the different ways in which you guys are reaching out now that you'd like to share.
For sure. One of our core values is that we believe that the local church is the hope of the world, and that we can do infinitely more together than we can apart. And so, man, the things that I get most proud of is how are we actually working with the people inside of our community to bring healing, to bring restoration. And there's a lot of great ways that we do that. My favorite is when we get to actually partner with other faith organizations, other churches, and do incredible things. We have these mission partners. We have several mission partners here in town that we've identified that are great organizations doing great work that help take people from immediate need of relief and bring them along a path to restoration, to be who God created them to be. Some of those partners are Legacy Parenting Center, Gateway to Prevention and Recovery, and Community Renewal, and Cargo Ranch. And each one of them is doing tremendous work right now. Community Renewal has put together an incredible page of resources for families who are struggling right now. If they'll go to the Community Renewal Facebook page, they can see all those resources and stay updated on that, because they update it every single day. Gateway to Prevention and Recovery, they know that people are struggling right now, and so their doors are still open. They're still accepting clients, and in a lot of ways, in fact, they said right now, if your ability to pay is a hindrance, they're still going to see you. They don't want that to be a hindrance to getting help. Legacy Parenting Center is still meeting needs for families right here. But one of my favorite things recently is, as a church, at Life Church, when we first decided not to meet in physical locations and to go online, we're like, there are people who need us, though. How do we stay in touch with these people who need us? Specifically those who are like the 65 plus, who are in that range of being most affected by COVID. And we're trying what can we do to meet needs for them? And we came across another church in our community, Emmanuel Baptist Church, had posted on their Facebook page that if somebody in the community needed help picking up prescriptions or picking up food, they would be the runners for that. And we thought, that's exactly what we need to be doing too. Emmanuel was on it. And what I love about that, and they probably don't even know this yet, is that the leadership that they showed in our local community in Shawnee led us to do and join and jump on board and do the exact same thing. And that actually spread to all 10 states at all 35 locations. That impact is going around the world. It's super cool that it started right here. We're all looking for ways to do it. And so that's one of those ways. I think, partnering as a capital C church, churches coming together and solving problems for their community. That's what God created us to do.
And you see around the internet things for kids happening all around. And one of our watchers asked a question about our kids programs, or the Life Church kids programs, your kids program. And that is, how can mothers and fathers plug their kids in, or how can kids plug in now? Do you guys have some kids activities and things online? Absolutely.
So I don't know all the ways you can access that. But I know that we do have the Life Church app. You download that. All those resources are in there. If you have a Roku or an Apple TV, you can go to the Life Church channel, and all of those things are there. We actually sit and watch our kids' curriculum every single weekend with our kids in our living room now, and go through that. My wife acts as a small group leader, and she does such an incredible job. God has uniquely crafted her for that. She does a great job, and anybody can do this in their living rooms now. And the wonderful thing is we give all this stuff away for free. So if you're needing something for your church or just for you personally, go to the Life Church app, go to the Life Church website. There's also open.church, and you can download any of these resources, particularly if you are a church. You can find these resources and utilize them for free. We just want to make sure that if there are churches who are trying to figure out how to continue to move forward, how to continue to disciple their kids, all of those things, we can help you with that. We just want to be a resource for our community here.
Well, and you're truly for everybody within the community, and that is the case with the YouVersion Bible. Bible plans, and makes it really easy to go through the Bible just by downloading it to any one of your devices. Just search YouVersion, and you'll find that. Now, you're the Life Missions pastor, and you mentioned some of the groups that the partnerships have occurred with, but also your Life Groups pastor. Right. And how are people actually being able to sustain the hundreds of life groups right here on the local campus and keep them moving forward?
Man, I think that's been one of the most fun and interesting challenges. Our life groups are small groups of people that meet in living rooms and coffee shops, and they talk about how God's working in their life, and they want to learn how they can grow and how they can serve. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to stay 6 feet apart. And so a lot of our groups have been trying to figure out, like, how do we solve this? And so what's happened is we've had a lot of our groups go online. They've started Facebook pages. They're doing live videos within those Facebook pages. They've checked out platforms like Zoom and Skype and Google Hangouts and all kinds of different things where they can actually see faces. Actually, my life group did this just the other day. We did a Zoom meeting, and my wife and I sat right here in my little makeshift office at home and got to connect with families in our life group and just share how things were going and pray over each other. But also, a lot of groups are meeting just through the YouVersion Bible app. What they're doing is they're consistently logging on and finding a Bible plan that they want to do together, maybe something that's specific for their group. And then they're at the end of that, when you share that with other people, you guys can actually discuss it at the end. So you can read the Bible plan, read the scriptures, and at the end, there's a talk it over feature where you can actually get in there and put in what you're learning and how you're growing and how that scripture impacted you. And a lot of groups are meeting in that way. It's been really interesting, but we actually still have a ton of groups that are meeting, and you don't have to be a part of our church. If you're looking for a place to connect, don't be alone, don't isolate. If you want a way to do that, just message us and we can help you guys do that. Daniel, can I give you a link here in a little bit that we can put? Okay. And you can reach out to us and we'll help you get connected to one of these groups that's meeting online. We don't want you guys to be isolated. I know I kind of even feel that way. I'm a high extrovert. I'm super tired of my house. Like, I want to see people and hang out and high five, and who knows when that's going to be.
So yeah, we'll grab that link, Pastor Ian, and we'll post it right in the comments or right up there in the text. And I want to thank you, man, for taking your time and talking with us today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go?
Yeah, just know that we're praying over you guys. As a church, we love our community. We love the other churches that are here. We love all the nonprofits that are doing incredible work. You nurses, you teachers, all you guys that are on front lines and still trying to meet needs for families in our community. Guys, know that you're in our thoughts and prayers. The work that you're doing is not being unnoticed. Our first responders, our police officers, firemen, guys, we're praying over you. We love you. And if you are alone, don't stay that way. Get out in your front yard, meet some people. Don't touch them, wave at them, talk to them, but get out of your house and allow people to see you and to be seen. Reach out, whether it's through social media or through text or whatever. Let's talk and let's get connected, and let's help you find the people and relationships that are going to help you to.
Our local Life Church and Life Missions Pastor Ian Brown. Thank you, Ian, for being with us today, and what an impact that organization is making all around the world, but most importantly, right here for all of us, the people within the 5-mile radius of us. That's where most of us spend 90% of our time. And as I began this, I truly believe that that is what is going to transform the world. That is what's going to improve human experiences for the vast majority of people, is as we gain understanding and closer understanding with each other. This is episode 1 of a podcast that we see moving forward, 30 days of community building. And it's so interesting that Pastor Ian is our first guest on the podcast show. Just coming up very shortly in the next couple of days, we're going to have some local brewmasters. That's right, beer makers from our community come on and talk with us about their passion for making beer and how it all transforms. And man, they talk a language that is very interesting in themselves. But so many different people make up community. So many different interests make up community. But Pastor Ian also shared a number of organizations that are reaching out into our local area to try to just help those who are in need, help all of us who are in need. But one thing that has truly impacted me, that has transformed through the Life Church venue, has been that YouVersion Bible. And the YouVersion Bible app, free for anyone. I would recommend it. Even if you've never read the Bible, or if you're a skeptic, this has a lot of different tools in it that you can utilize and make your experience in the Word just transformational. So Pastor Ian, we lost you there for a minute, but again, we do want to thank you for being a part of our episode 1 of 30 Days of Community Building series here on the We Are the City of 5 Nations podcast. Thanks, man.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Hey, in the City of 5 Nations,